walk into a room and someone hands you a face, an old one. The face they decided was yours years ago, in a moment that you barely remember and have been handing you ever since. They say your name the way people say the name of a place they grew up in, with a familiarity that has curdled over time into assumption. And you take the face, you put it on, you laugh at the old stories, perform the old gestures, shrink back into the old shape. And somewhere beneath all of it, something in you goes very quiet. I, Friedrich Nietzsche, have a name for what you are experiencing. It is the oldest cage ever built, and the cruelest thing about it is that you hold the key. Let me tell you what is actually happening in that room. The people around you, your family, your oldest friends, the ones who have known you the longest, they are not cruel. Cruelty would be easier to resist. What they are doing is something far more ordinary and far more suffocating. They are being consistent. They met a version of you at some point in the past, and they built part of their inner world around that version. You were the reckless one, or the quiet one, or the one who always needed rescuing, or the one who never followed through. They observed, they categorized, and they put you away. What they have not done is reopen the file. I wrote extensively about what I called the morality of the herd, the way groups enforce conformity through the slow, relentless pressure of expectation. The herd simply requires legibility. It needs its members to remain recognizable, predictable, and filed correctly. A person who changes in any genuine way becomes a disruption. Just because it demands revision, it forces everyone who organized their understanding of you to admit the map was wrong. And most people, when given the choice between revising the map and waiting for the territory to change back, will wait. So they make jokes that return you to your old shape. They tell stories about who you were in a tone that implies you still are. They receive the new you with the patient tolerance of someone waiting for a phase to end. And they do this out of the deep human need to have things stay where they were put. But here is what I want to press on, because this is where most people stop thinking clearly. The cage is not only built by them, you build it too. Some part of you, the part that still needs to belong, the part that remembers what it costs to be an outsider, cooperates with the reduction. You soften at the edges. You perform the familiarity you no longer feel. You let the old stories land without correcting them. And in doing so, you become an architect of your own diminishment. I called this kind of inward surrender resentment, though not in the direction I usually aim the word. The resentment here flows quietly inward. You feel the injustice of being misread, and instead of refusing it, you absorb it. You make yourself fit the frame and call it love, loyalty, anything to avoid causing a scene. I call it the failure of nerve that comes just before genuine transformation is possible. The bars of this prison are made out of memories, shared history, the fear of the conversation you would have to have if you simply stopped pretending. That conversation feels impossible I understand, but ask yourself, what are you paying day after day to keep avoiding it? The cost is paid in slow increments. A little more of the new self suppressed here, a little more of the old performance extended there, until you have two selves, and neither of them is entirely real. Consider what that doubling does to a person over time. You begin to lose the thread of your own interior. You forget, in the company of certain people, what you actually think, because thinking freely in their presence has become too costly, too disruptive, too much work to manage. So you stop. You offer them the version of your thoughts they expect, the reactions that they have always received from you, the emotional register they recognize. And you tell yourself this is just how it is with people you have known a long time. That intimacy always involves a little performance. But that is not intimacy. That is a very sophisticated form of loneliness. To be surrounded by people who believe they know you, while the actual you watches from somewhere further back. That is the exact opposite of connection. And the tragedy is that it can last for years before you name it for what it is, the beginning of a long, quiet disappearance. I want to tell you something that will be difficult to hear, and I want you to resist the urge to soften it into something more comfortable than it is. Genuine transformation is a rupture. And ruptures cause damage to everyone who had organized themselves around the previous version of you. To insist on becoming what you have become is, in some relationships, to grieve together. In others, it is to grieve alone. This is what no one tells you about Verdun, about becoming. They hand you beautiful language, unfolding, blossoming, finding yourself, stepping into your truth. Language designed to make the process sound like something everyone in your life will celebrate. But what I observed in myself and in every serious thinker who has grappled with this is something far less comfortable. When you change in any real way, you are also, in some sense, leaving. Not physically, perhaps, but the person your mother cataloged, the person your oldest friend needed in order to feel stable, the person whose role in the group was settled and useful. That person has died, and the people who love that person have a right to mourn them, even if you have no intention of returning. Stop trying to spare them from that mourning. It is yours to offer, but not yours to prevent. What I called Selbstüberwindung, self-overcoming, was never a gentle concept. If anything, it was a demand. Destroy what you currently are in order to become what you are capable of. The self I pointed toward was a discontinuity, a break in the line. And breaks, by their nature, do not ask permission from the people standing on the other side. You want the new self and the old belonging simultaneously. I understand the longing, but I must tell you that in many cases you cannot have both. The people who knew you before will either expand to meet who you have become, and that expansion requires a willingness in them that you cannot manufacture, or they will not. And if they will not, you are left with a choice that has no comfortable answer. The actual question is this: are you willing to accept that outgrowing someone is not a betrayal of what you shared? That some bonds were made for a version of you that no longer exists? and that maintaining them requires you to perform a resurrection. Every performance costs something. The actor knows this. You do too, even if you have not said it. I will not tell you the cost of leaving is too high. That is a calculation that only you can make, and I have no interest in making it comfortable. But I will tell you this. The cost of staying inside the old shape is not zero either. It is paid slowly, invisibly, in the currency of self-erasure, in the daily grinding down of everything new and unrecognized in you until it fits the container they built. That too is a choice. You make it every time you walk through that door and reach for the old face. And I want to say something further about the mechanics of that erosion, because I think you underestimate how quickly it compounds. It begins with small capitulations. You do not correct a story about you. You do not mention the book that changed how you think because you already know what they will say about it. You do not bring the new friend into the old circle because explaining that friendship would require explaining the person that you have become, and you are not ready for that conversation. Each of these omissions feels minor, reasonable even, the prudent management of social friction. But they accumulate, and what they accumulate into is a version of yourself that exists only in the presence of these people, a ghost of a former self, maintained through effort, growing less convincing with each passing day. Another terrible thing is that others rarely notice the effort it takes. They simply receive the familiar face and feel reassured. They walk away from the encounter thinking, good, nothing has changed, while you walk away a little more hollowed out than before. I have no patience for the person who complains of the cage and then, each morning, climbs back inside it. Neither should you. After all, ask yourself, should I keep shrinking just because others can feel comfortable? I think you and I both know the answer to this question.